Hi, this is Simon from Tokyo Productions and welcome back to part 3 of this epic construction project in which we're looking at building this space station corridor scene. I will try to wrap it up in this final part and not extend into part 4. Just a overview of what we're going to do. I want to make a couple of extra ingredients, one of which is some floor trim to run along the bottom of the arches. The other thing is the back door to this corridor. Then we'll look at adding a camera and some lights and some atmospheric effects to finish off the scene. So let's jump in and do our floor trim first of all. So to do that, we're going to go back to our ceiling panel project that we created previously. So I'm going to open up ceiling panel, and remember we had that look. So first of all, let's save this as floor detail, and I want to come to the project properties, so that's Command J, and we want to set a width of 125 and leave the height at 1000. So let's now make some adjustments to this so it all fits into our new shape. I'm going to hold down the Alt key and click on that base rectangle disclosure tick here, and that's the hide show button, and that solos that layer. So now if I select that, Command /, I'm just going to zero out that X and Y position, and I'm going to hold down the Alt key and drag in the sides just so we get tidy that up. Come to the shape outline, hit preserve width, I think, just to have an equal outline. Again, hold down the Alt key and click on the hide show tick box, brings everything else back. And I think what I'm going to do now is I take that grid and come to the height here. I'm going to reduce that to 230, and I'm going to set a width of 100. Then let's come to its transform here, and I'm going to set a Y position of 370. That pops it up there to the top. Let's move it up just a little bit further. There we go, 375. Then I'm going to hit K to clone it and set a Y position of -375. Pops it down at the bottom there. So just to tidy things up a little bit more, I'm going to select that base rectangle, come to the shape outline, and let's just increase that outline. Let's come up to about 18, 19, and then let's move it over on X a little bit. There we go, that's tidied up the design. Okay, I think we're done, and let's again save this project, Command S, and then come to the share menu, save current frame. JPEG will do, and we'll save that as floor trim. Then we can close that on down. We can come back to our base station project. Let's look for our floor trim JPEG there, and we'll drag it into our arches there. Arches group. We'll hit L to make a replicator, and then we'll come to the inspector F4. I want one column, and I want 11 rows, and we'll open the size, and the height we'll set to 10,000. There we go, and that's tiling up nicely. Then we'll hit F1 for the transform. We need to rotate it through 90 degrees on X to sit it flat on its back. Then we need to bring it down to -539, so it's sitting on the floor level. And then we need to move it over on X to -725. And that will sit it there underneath that arch. Let's call that floor trim left. Let's duplicate it, Command D, floor trim right. F1 for its transform, and let's set a X value of 725 to move it over to the right hand side, and there we've got floor trim on both sides. Turn off the lights like that, we can see more clearly that detail. The point of this is really the more detail you can add, the more it's going to fool the eye in thinking we've got an interesting 3D scene. These are small details, but they really add up to the total effect. So now let's move on to our door. Okay, so we're going to make the door in a new project, but I want to steal some of the geometry that we've already made. So I'm going to come to my arches group and I'm going to select arch image, arch depth and arch matte. Do that by holding down the command key as you click them, and then we'll hit command C to copy them to the clipboard. And we'll make a new project, and we'll leave that set to 1920 1080, and we'll hit command V to paste those components into our new project and turn them on. We don't want quite this degree of complexity, so I'm going to delete a few of these elements. So I'm going to open up that arch matte and let's delete everything apart from that white Bezier at the bottom. So select all those, delete them. Let's come into the depth group here. Again, let's delete everything apart from the white component. So now we can start building up some depth geometry. So don't forget that our depth map group is driving the indent filter here. So first of all, let's select I'm going to close down the arch matte group because we don't need to see that. Okay, so we're going to take this initial Bezier here in the depth map group and we're going to duplicate it, command D, and we're going to change its color to a mid grey. And then I'm going to turn on the overlays, toggle through till we get to the edit points, F1 for its properties, and I'm just going to move it over on X. I think I'll move it over about 50 pixels on X, and you can see that's given us a bit of a rim there. I'm going to take those top 2 points, shift select them, and just bring them down till we've got a better shape there, and then just grab that point, even up that edge there. And then I'm going to take that same shape and I'm going to duplicate it again, so command D. And again, F1 for its transform. Let's move it over 100 pixels this time. And come to its color, F4, fill color, and let's make this a lighter grey. And as you can see, a lighter value pushes it out and a darker value pushes it back. Again, let's just grab those top 2 points, bring them down, select this left hand point here, just move it in a little bit. So now we've got a channel running round the inside. I think what I'm going to do with this is to delete that bottom left hand corner and the one above it, and I'm going to select this bottom one here and just move it up till we've now got a shape just for the top here. Then I'm going to select the Bezier tool, B, hit F7 for the HUD, select a fill color of black. Let's turn on the grid, that's command apostrophe to turn that on. Select the middle here, click about there, click over here, click down here, click over here and close that on up. And turn off the grid by hitting command apostrophe. And now I've got a nice cutout in the middle here. So now I want to take that shape just below that, and I think I want to open up a channel above. Grab these 2 left hand points and I'm going to move them left to open up a channel like that, and probably grab that top point here and just even it up like that, like so. I think I'm fairly happy with that. And now I'm going to select this shape here and the one immediately below that black one, and I'm going to duplicate it, so command D. I'm going to grab these 2 points here, move them down a bit, then I'm going to grab that point, move it over to here, grab this point, move it down to there, and I can delete that top point. Just tidy that up so I've got a better shape there. Maybe have that like that, that'll do. I'm going to duplicate this shape one more time, Command D. Again, show my overlays, move that point over to here, move this one down to there. And then this, just open up a gap here, moving those two. Then I'm going to select the shape below that, Command D, select its fill color. Let's turn off that hard, don't need that. Select its fill color and let's make this black. And grab this point here, bring it in, grab this point, move that down there, move that down to about there. Now I'd like to make a slightly more interesting feature of this latest group here. I'm going to call this Bezier Matte, this last shape here. And I'm going to hit Command 2 to come to the library, generators, and I'm going to grab the grid and I'm going to bring it in just above that Bezier Matte shape. And I'm going to hit Command Shift M to make an image mask. Then I'll take that Bezier Matte and drag it into the image mask well, like that. And now I've got an interesting looking fill here for that section. I'm going to come to the grid, F4, and I'm going to increase the feather to 1. So I quite like the look of that. I might just select the line colour and bring that down to grey there, and you can see that's given me a nice edge around my grid pattern. Okay, now let's add a bit more detail to the top of the door. I'm going to select this shape here, that was the last shape that we made at the top here, and again I'm going to duplicate it, Command D, come to its colour and let's make this a darker grey, and let's toggle through till we get to edit points. Let's select these two here, bring those in like that, bring this one in, I want to bring this one here up to about there, and this one I want to move up like that. Maybe move this one over here. Probably bring this down a bit more. Maybe bring that one up a little bit more like that. And then I'll duplicate that shape again, Command D. And I'll take this top point here, bring that down to about here, take this one here, open up a gap, take this one, move it down to that corner there, bring this one in. Actual fact, I think I'm going to delete that point there and bring that down to there, bring this across like that, down a bit, I quite like that, and I'm going to duplicate it again, Command D, take this point here, move that over to there, open ourselves up a gap again, I think I'll delete that point, just have a little triangle in there, like that, or maybe have that like that. Okay, so I think this is looking pretty good. Now I just want to concentrate on this area here and make a bit more of a detail for this kind of lock area. Now everything we've done so far has been mirrored because we've got this mirror filter on the arch depth map group, but I want to do something asymmetrical this time, so I'm going to make a new group, Command Shift N, and call it Depth Master, and I'm going to drag that original group inside there, and now what I can do is I can make asymmetrical detail in this new group. But because I want to be working in this central area here where I've created this shape here, I've made that shape black, which means it's pushed as far back as it can possibly be pushed, and I actually want to cut out some detail in it rather than push it out. So what I need to do is change its fill color. So I'll select the fill color and I'm going to make that mid-gray. Too far and it starts to push out the other way. Don't want that. Just want to mid-gray so it's still cut out, but I can go a bit further if I want to. So now I'm going to select the depth master group and I'm going to hit C for the circle tool and F7 for the HUD. I'm going to make the outline color solid black, and holding down the Shift and Option key, I'm going to drag out a circle there, like that. And as you can see, that's pushed itself back into the geometry and given me this outline shape. Now I want to select the Bezier tool, so that's B. Bring up the HUD, make sure my outline color is black. Let's zoom in on that area that we've just created there. Come back to the Bezier tool. I just want to click there and hit enter. Got a little bit too far, pull that in a bit, like so. And actually let's even change that fill color, not quite so black, like that. We zoom out, turn off the overlays. You can see that's created that nice little sort of handle effect in there. Right, let's select the Bezier tool again, B. Make sure that outline color is fully black this time. And I'm going to click here, down a bit, across here, here, down a bit, and enter. And that's given me this channel here. And then if I zoom in to that top there and select the Bezier, the Edit Points tool, grab that top, I'm just going to move that all the way up to here, just to make sure that channel gets cut out all the way to the top like that. Just pan down, grab that same point at the end at the bottom and drag that all the way down as well. So just tidy that up. And now I think that door is looking pretty decent. What I'd just like to do is add a little bit of color detail, because at the moment it's all exactly the same color and that's a bit boring. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new group at the top of everything. So Command Shift N. Let's call this color detail. And I'm going to grab a couple of these panels and bring it into this group. Let's turn on the overlays just so I can identify them. Let's grab that one, that's nice. That one too. That one too at the top. And I'll hold down the Alt key and drag those into the color detail group, obviously making a copy in the process. Now that's not mirroring because we haven't got the mirror filter on there. So let's grab the mirror filter and Option drag it to that color detail group. Now that doesn't work, so we can remedy that by taking the color solid from there and Alt dragging it into that color detail group and moving it to the back. That's Command forward curly bracket or Command Shift square bracket, depending on how you want to define that. F1 for its blend mode, and I'm going to set its opacity to 1. If we set it to 0, it doesn't work, but just 1 will give me just enough. And now I can also set its blend mode to screen, and that'll make sure that it's not visible at all. So now let's select those three shapes, come to the fill color here and darken that down to something like that. F1 for the blending here, and let's set the opacity to 60%. Now if I toggle that on and off, you can see how that's added some extra interest to that area. Now I know I should probably leave this as it is at this point and move on, but I couldn't resist a few more tweaks. So what I want to do is want to move this locking mechanism over a bit. So I'm going to select the circle and that little angled Bezier line and just drag them over till they're around there, just intersecting that edge there. Then I'm going to select the rectangle tool and F7 for the HUD, and I don't want outline, I want fill. Let's go for mid-grey, and I want to draw a rectangle roughly like that. And I need to move it down behind the Bezier line, or rather move the Bezier line above, so Command back curly bracket. Let's adjust this colour just so we get a differentiation between the two. That's looking pretty good like that. Let's come to the geometry for the rectangle and just increase the corner roundness to about 12. And I'm going to grab that rectangle, holding down the Option key. I'm going to drag it out into a new group. So that's like a colour detail over the top there. F1 for its opacity, set that down to 60%, and come to the shape, style, colour. Let's darken that down. Then I'd also like to grab that Bezier line, let's call that channel, and I'm going to Alt drag it out into that new group that I've made above the rectangle. Let's reduce the width down to 10, just so it's a little bit more subtle and we've still got that nice detail in there. So I think that's really looking pretty nice. Lots of nice architectural detail in there. So now time has come to save it out. So we'll come to the Share menu, Share, Save Current Frame. We need to select PNG image, and let's call it Door Final, and save that out. And we'll call our project Door Build, and we'll save that and close it. So we're going to come and look for our Door Final PNG, and I'm going to drag it into the Arches group, like that. And now that's sitting at 0, and we need to come to the inspector and push it back on Z. So I'm going to push it back by 10,000 pixels on Z. And that will push it all the way back to the back of the scene. So I turn off that light. We can see it sitting there at the back. All that work, and we can't even see it. Never mind. Okay, so one other feature before we move on and sort out the camera and lighting and all the rest of it is to create some warning lights at the back of the scene here, which sort of flashing in an alarming fashion, telling that something very bad is about to happen. So let's make a new group inside the lights group here. Bring that in. I'm going to call this red lights. And I'm going to hit C for the circle tool, F7 for the HUD. I'm going to have a fill colour that's a nice warning red. And hold down the Shift key, I'm going to drag out a warning light like that. And I'm going to centre it up. Let's hide the overlays so we can see what's happening. That's Alt Command / hides the 3D overlays. Very slight feather on it of about 10 pixels just to soften it down a bit. And then I'm going to duplicate it, Command D, and feather it out quite a bit, so to 75. And come to its blend mode here, and let's set the blend mode to screen and the opacity down to about 30. And let's duplicate it again, Command D, and let's set the feather to 150. We can make a replicator of that. Let's make it 2D and hit L to make a replicator. Let's bring that back into that group. Don't know why it's popping out there into that new group. Okay, so let's come to the replicator controls here. Let's twirl open the size here. I want to set the width to 175 and the height to 5000. Don't want it running all the way down the corridor this time. Okay, so number of columns is 6 and number of rows is 6. And I think what we can do is probably just reduce the scale down to about 75%. like that. I come into my red lights group here, come to my original colour, and I think I might set that to be a little bit brighter. Let's go all the way up on the red. Let's come in a bit. Let's go for that. Let's call those Replicator warning lights, and let's make some adjustments to its transform F1. So I'm going to set an X position of 240, a Y position of 540, a Z position of minus 6000, an X rotation of minus 47, a Y rotation of 90, Z rotation of 90, and I'll come down here to the X anchor point and set that to 320. Now you're probably asking yourself, where the hell have they disappeared to? Well, that's down to the fact that we need to affect the lighting and shadows again. So come to the Replicator lighting, and let's set the shading to off, and let's turn off cast and receive shadows. And now I think you can see we've now got those lights there at the back of the scene. And we want them flashing to indicate that something bad is going to happen. So let's add a behavior, Command 2, for the library behaviors replicator, sequence replicator, add that to the warning lights. F2 for the sequence replicator controls. We want to add an opacity parameter, set the opacity to 0. We want to have 20 loops. And I want to set the sequencing to through. And I've just done a quick RAM preview, F8 to go full screen, just to show you that those do indeed flash. Like that. F8 to come back out of that, F6 to turn off the track view. Okay, time to do some camera and lighting work. Let's turn on the camera and let's come to F1 for its positional controls. I'm going to set an X position of minus 420, a Y position of minus 400, and a Z position of minus 800. And then I'm going to apply a behavior to the camera. So Command 2, behaviors, basic motion, throw, and apply that. And F2 for the throw controls. So I'll open the throw velocity. I'm going to set an X value of minus 50 and a Y value of 50 and a Z value of minus 100. Now in actual fact I got my numbers wrong there with the camera. I actually meant 420 on X, not minus 420, because I like to start from the right. I don't know why. Turn the throw back on again. And you can see we start out down here, the bottom left, and we end up there. We've risen up and we've pushed in. Okay, what about lighting? So first of all, let's adjust our main light here. Come to the light tab. We're going to set a fall off start of 6000 and a fall off of 10. Let's reduce the intensity down to 20, like that. So we've still got that moodiness, but the light is extending further back. Here under the shadows, I always like to reduce the opacity of the shadows down to 90%, so they're not fully black. There's always a bit of light bouncing around, so fully black shadows don't really exist in the real world. And I've cranked that softness up to its maximum value of 100. So I'm going to take that light and I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to come to F1 for its transform, and I'm going to set a position of minus 5500 for this second light, so it's much further back in the scene, and that illuminates our fabulous door. I'm going to come to the intensity here and let's turn that down to about 15, maybe even 10 will do. Yep, I think that's good. And because we've got these red lights at the back here, I think what we can do is very slightly adjust that lighting colour. Only a tiny amount, but just so it feels like there's a little bit of warm light hitting the back of the scene. So that's the camera and lighting done, and the next step is to render out the scene, which I have to warn you is quite a long process. Now you may think that all renders are the same in motion, but actually in a scene like this there's quite a bit of difference between the default normal setting quality and best, and I'm afraid you need to select best for this, and that really dramatically slows down the render time. But if you select normal, things like this grid pattern here will boil and bubble and look really unpleasant. The shadows won't look really nice. So lots of factors mean that you simply have to go for best in this case. So if your machine is not especially powerful, expect a really quite slow render. So I'm going to let you do that. So File, Share, Export Movie, and select ProRes HQ. Duration should be the entire project. And so hit Next, and then save that out as Space Station Render Master. And you can have a coffee or probably even lunch while that's happening. So I'm assuming that you've now rendered out that project. I just wanted to show you how to add some atmosphere to this scene to make it feel a little bit more realistic. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab the camera from this scene, so Command C to copy it to the clipboard, and let's make a new project. 1920 1080, 24 frames a second, 10 seconds long, and we can close down the original Space Station project to save on RAM. Okay, so now we're going to paste our camera into this new project. That's Command V, and we're going to set this group to 2D, and we're going to go and hunt for our Space Station master render, which is down here, and I'm going to bring it into that 2D group and turn off the track view by hitting F6. So the reason for this arrangement is that we can now add some atmospheric effects in here that will be seen by the camera, but because this group here is 2D, it won't be affected and it will stay as it was. So I'm going to make a new group, Command-Shift-N, and this one does want to be 3D, and I'm going to hit B for the Bezier tool, F7 for the HUD, just to make that white, just to tidy, and then I'm going to draw around one of these central arches here, just going around the outside like that, and like so, till I've completed the shape, and let's center it up, and we'll set a feather of 500, and we don't need to see that. What we need to do is come to the library, Command 2, Generators, and we need to look for the clouds generator and bring it into the scene. F4 for the clouds controls. We need to set a height of 1920 as well as a width. And then I want to hit Command-Shift-M to make an image mask, and that Bezier that we made I'll drag into the image mask well. And I want to turn off the stencil here. So that has the effect of, when I move the clouds backwards and forwards, the mask stays correctly attached. So let me just center up these clouds for the time being, and then I'm going to move it back by -3000. So it's roughly in the middle of the tunnel, so we can see what we're doing. F4 to come back to the generator. Let's set a speed of about 0.3, so they're just very gently drifting, like that. And then let's twirl open the gradient. Click on this black color tab here. Click on the swatch, and we want to increase this. We don't want too much contrast, just something really quite like that. And then we want to come to F1 for its blend mode here and set that to screen, and reduce the opacity a long way down, so Let's try 5 like that. And that's just giving us a nice smoky atmosphere in there. And then I want to duplicate that clouds layer, Command D, and F1 for its position. I'm going to move it back to -6000 on Z, so it's further back in the scene like that. And then I'll duplicate it one more time, Command D, F1 again for its position, set that to about -1000. And that's much closer to the camera. This is probably all a bit too much, but we can select the group and reduce the opacity of the group, maybe come down to about 50%. Let's set the blend mode of the group to screen. Whenever you reduce the opacity down below 50%, it changes the blend mode to normal, so that's an important thing to know. Again, we're probably still too much. Let's go to a 30. This is really just wants to be a subtle effect, but it really does help to add depth. So if I turn it off, you can see how flat and lifeless that looks. Whereas as soon as I've got the atmospherics in there, that's really a lot more interesting. And just one final touch. I'm going to take my original space station render, Command 2 for the library, come to Filters, scroll down to Glow, and I'm going to add a glow filter to that layer. F3 for the inspector. Let's increase the radius a lot to about 30. Let's increase the threshold, so I don't want it kicking off too much off the floor, but a nice lot off the sides. So I've got a threshold of 0.9 there. That seems to be pretty good. Maybe reduce the opacity down to 1. And the net effect of that is just to have given a lot more realism to the scene. In my render, I've used a lens flare plugin that I've built for my own use, but unfortunately it would take a very long time for me to show you how to build that. It would take months, in fact. So we're just going to have to leave this project here. So there you go. That's taken a very, very long time to walk you through this project, but obviously there are lots of components to it. But hopefully along the way you've learnt some interesting techniques that you wouldn't otherwise have known about. So thanks very much for sticking with it. If you've reached this far, you definitely have earned yourself a gold star. So thanks very much indeed for watching, and I hope to see you again another time.